Hi everyone, this is Elizabeth. I did my presentation on vocational guidance for sexual minorities, so LGBTQ as we know them. I actually had no idea just how difficult it is for sexual minorities to not just find work, but feel accepted in work. And, even as Christians and even as in a Western, we are still going to experience and work with people who do identify as LGBTQ. And so having the skills to do that is super important. And just being able to step into their shoes for a second, understand what they're dealing with. So just a couple of statistics because everybody loves statistics. According to a 2016 Gallup poll, 10 million American adults identify as LGBTQ right now. So that's 4% of the population. Millennials who identify as LGBTQ actually has increased from 5.8 to 7.3% over the past couple years. So that means that you're going to be seeing a lot more in your office, and especially because millennials are making up a lot of the population now. Oftentimes, discrimination for LGBTQ identifying people starts in high school or younger. So this leads to some social victimization and exclusion, and as a result, there's delayed psychosocial development. Meaning that people, when they get into their young adult years, have lots of difficulty, interacting at work, having proper self-efficacy, or enough self-efficacy to feel like they're doing a good job, and they're struggling a lot with interpersonal relationships in the office. So if you are looking at a transgender employee, that is a whole nother bear. They experience often the most rejection and the most discrimination at work. There was one study done that said that 75% of transgender people experience discrimination at work. So that might be not getting the job they want, or it might be, some subtle microaggressions. So when you're working with a transgender client, that means you're going to need to address how to deal with blatant discrimination, and you're going to need to work on a lot of resiliency and resistance, CBT kind of stuff. So, lastly, something just to keep in mind is that if a client is concealing their gender identity at work, that actually has a pretty negative correlation to a positive correlation with decreased work performance. So the more somebody's concealing their identity at work, their gender identity, the poorer their work performance is going to be. So keeping that in mind, just remember that it's not always the best. If it's a safe environment, it's not always the best idea to instruct a client to not or to hide their identity. So there's actually a lot of programs that are coming up because the LGBTQ is making up more of the population, and especially in Portland, there's a lot more programs that are coming up that are addressing how helping LGBTQ identifying people find work and deal with discrimination in the workplace. And there's actually a lot of programs that are specify specifically for youth who are homeless, or young adults who are homeless who identify as LGBTQ, who are trying to get into the workforce but don't have the skills in order to do that. So a couple of those I'm just going to go through real quick are SMYRC. So that's through New Avenues for Youth. SMYRC is SMYRC. And they provide a variety of services for youth and young adults. I think this is probably one of the best ones that I found. The services are directed at homeless, at-risk, foster care, addiction recovery, all of those kinds of things. But they're specifically doing career preparation. So they have a career preparedness lab. They have a 4-week program that includes job searching strategies, resume building, cover letter writing, interview skills, career exploration. And if the clients get through that and feel like they have learned a lot but want to keep learning more, they actually have employment specialists, and they have an intensive program that I think is 3 months. You can look at that up. It should be on the sheet that I have attached. But it's an intensive program that goes even more into depth. And with that, there's a lot of networking that is done. They're going to be working individually with a career specialist, all of that. And a note on SMERC, if you're actually looking to get into career counseling, you don't have to have a master's to work with them in the capacity of career coach. So it's a great way to kind of get an introduction into that. It looks like they have some part-time positions. And you'd be getting to work with a really fun population that not a lot of people get the opportunity to work with. So next up is the Human Rights Campaign. That's probably one of the best well known. They're going to have specific job fairs. They're a nationwide organization. So they have just a list of job fairs, job boards, and reports on the best places for LGBTQ people to work. That's a pretty national one, not super local, but definitely one to have as a resource for clients if they ask. Outside In is another one in Oregon, or in Portland specifically, that provides services for LGBTQ homeless identifying youth. Again, providing those career services, job training opportunities, and they actually have this really upscale doggy daycare in on Burnside. I think it's the Virginia Wolf Doggy Daycare, and all of the people that work there are LGBTQ identifying youth or young adults who are gaining work experience and even experiencing, the therapeutic interactions with animals at the same time. So it's a really, really cool program. In terms of some, not necessarily programs that are working with individuals, but people that are, or laws that are trying to be enacted and some other activist type things. There's the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. So it's been trying to get passed every year since 1994 with Congress. And it's a legislature that's trying to get passed that would outlaw discrimination by employers based on sexual, gender, or identity. Unfortunately, it never has been passed. And that would have some certain ramifications for religious organizations and that type of thing. So it is a little messy, but for the general working public, they're trying to get it passed because it would be very beneficial. Then, let's see, Fair Workplace Project, Basic Rights Oregon is another one. So they offer actually like large-scale corporations or small corporations. They offer trainings for how to be more inclusive and how to, it says the Fair Workplace Project's intention is to both help employers understand difficulties, bias, and harassment of transgender people's experience, but it also equips employers and employees to take steps to help transgender people feel more safe and confident in the work environment. And then there's a couple others that are a little bit more specific. GLMA is a specific one for healthcare professionals who identify as LGBTQ, and they're just trying to help healthcare providers who do identify as a sexual minority still have the same rights and opportunities as those who are heterosexual. Lastly is the Movement Advancement Project. MAP is the short term for that. That one just has a lot of resources, graphics, maps, statistics for people to look through about discrimination throughout the country. It's a fantastic resource if you're really just trying to get a little bit more informed. So, practical suggestions for application in working with clients. Regardless of what age your LGBTQ employment-seeking client is, they're probably going to need to work on some self-efficacy and confidence building. Just because and as well as resilience training. So give the client as much opportunity as you can to allow them to direct their own job search. That'll help build self-efficacy, and we'll show them that they can do it. Also, you'll probably need to work with them to identify talents. Might need to use some more objective questioning, like what's something you did when you were younger that you loved instead of what are you good at. Also, you might need to address some automatic negative thoughts, since that's something that they're not only hearing from themselves, but probably from coworkers or employers and that such thing. So for clients, especially for young adults who have a delayed psychosocial development, they are probably struggling to find work, and there's a number of options. So one of the studies I read suggested you could refer them to group DBT. That way they're going to be able to work more intensely on self-efficacy and interpersonal relationships. You can also spend time working through different hypothetical scenarios that might come up at work, so they're prepared and so they feel like they kind of have a grasp on what they would do. And then for the client who's struggling to keep a job, exploring different job maintenance skills could be beneficial. Encourage clients to look for work in LGBTQ friendly places. As I mentioned earlier, concealing identity, gender identity at work can be pretty. It affects work performance, so it makes work performance go down. It also has negative effects on, obviously, emotions, but then physical effects as well. So have them do some networking, maybe some informational interviewing within their LGBTQ network to figure out what kinds of employees or employers are going to be the most open and willing for them to do this. Finally, make sure that you're identifying the causes and you're talking about the role of stress in the workplace with LGBTQ clients. A lot of times they might think that the stress is coming from within, or they think that their issue is from themselves, but it's actually a workplace issue and they're being discriminated against, and so that's why they're stressed, that's why they're having difficulties. I've also included a LGBTQ employment handout. There's lots of websites there that you can go on, that your client can go on to help job sites. There's specific ones for teenagers and young adults, and then some lists of the best workplaces, as well as some legal information that we don't have to go into right now. Anyway, thank you for watching and have a great day.